Tottenham won. Rangers won. It's something. Welcome into Top of the Perch. I'm your host, as always, Nick Burt. It is match week 5 or whatever, league phase day 5, or it actually might be 6. I think it's 6 in the Europa League. Tottenham traveled to Glasgow to take on Rangers, of course, a shorter road trip than anything else Tottenham had played this year in the Europa League. And they settled for a 1-1 draw. A draw they probably shouldn't have got, but they end up with points anyways, which keeps Tottenham very much in the race to finish in the top 8 in the Europa League. It's obviously been a rough few weeks. Injuries, playing time for players, play style for players, ownership, management, everything under the sun seems to be a problem for Tottenham Hotspur right now. And for most of this game, yeah, it kind of was in this game too. But to Tottenham's credit, they persevered. They picked up a point with a goal in the last 15 minutes that get them to that point, and they still have everything to play for in the Europa League. And it's really all you can ask right now. You just got to hope you can get through these weeks and months that injuries are going to keep piling up, and you just got to hope and pray right now, and that's really all it is. I mean, there's nothing much to call home about Tottenham today. They looked putrid most of the game. Timo Werner, absolutely awful. I'm glad Postecoglou somewhat called him out post-game for just being awful. That's something that needed to happen. I hope that means we're leaning towards hopefully signing somebody in January to replace him and hopefully sending him back to RB Leipzig if they even want him back. I don't know. He's not good. That is a huge problem right now for this team, especially when you don't have the depth that this team has right now. When you don't spend money on players for the bench, it's difficult when you get in injury situations like this you're going to have to play somebody like Timo Werner. Yeah, Richarlison out. Obviously, Mikey Moore is out with a flu bug that he's had for 2 months now. And that's basically your depth right there. You can switch Kulusevski and Johnson on and off, but they're still playing mostly 90 minutes each night. It's that's not the way to play. Heung-min's son's being driven into the ground right now. I think that plays a factor in his form very much dipping this year. If you can't rest your players and make sure they have an adequate replacement, it's going to make things a lot more difficult. And that's a problem right now. There's a problem everywhere with this squad. Today, the back line was Destiny Udogie, who seems like he never gets a break, Radu Dragusin, who's the only healthy center back, a midfielder in Archie Gray playing at the center back position, and Pedro Porro, who also just does not seem to get a break at all. It's just, there's no words to really put how much this team is being drug into the ground right now just because of playtime. They just don't have the replacements. Maybe Jed Spence should get a start on Sunday. We're playing Southampton. What's the worst that could happen if you play him instead of, Destiny Udogie or Pedro Porro? Because both of those two have quite terrible form right now. Both of them, they're playing quite awful. And I got to give props to Archie Gray. He is not a defender at all. He's playing he's played on the left, he's played on the right, now he's played down the center. He's adapting. he's not a defensive player. He's a midfielder. It would be nice to see him play in his actual position, but I mean, at least it's a filler for now. I don't know. Past that, I mean, this team just didn't look good today. I do have to say, the savior of this game, the man that keeps us in games right now is Fraser Foster. I have to give him credit. When Vicario went down with the ankle injury that knocked him out for months, I was terrified because I'm like, what is going to happen now? Because Fraser Foster is not good. Well, yes, sometimes the goals he lets in are quite awful goals to let in. He very much keeps us in these games and makes sure they stay like 1-0 or 1-1 instead of being, 4-0 Rangers at half. This man makes crucial saves. He makes big-time plays in big-time moments. I got to give him that at least because he's one of few that's actually showing up to play right now. And that's really interesting to say. Kind of shows some of the mentality of some of these players here. And also, Rodrigo Bentancur, it wasn't the best of games for him today. But if you've noticed, in the games he doesn't play in the league, that's like when Tottenham look their worst. When Rodrigo Bentancur is healthy, playing and not suspended, they look decent. Like, I think he is a integral part of this team that a lot of people overlook, which, I mean, you can say whatever you want about that. It's just, the suspension in the first place was quite dumb. 7 games was very excessive too, so that also hurts Tottenham there league-wise, but here we are anyways. So let's take a look at the player the stats from this game before we get to the player ratings. Tottenham controlled the possession today, 59%. But almost everything else, they got dominated once again. And one of the biggest factors in that has to be just the injuries stacking up for this team and playing players that aren't adequate enough for this style of football. I mean, you had 15 shots for Rangers, 12 for Tottenham, 6 total on target for Rangers, 3 for Tottenham. The expected goals, it was almost 1.5 for Rangers. For Tottenham, it was at 0.87. I mean, even though Tottenham controlled the possession, they weren't playing what they usually play. And that's the big problem here with all these injuries stacking up and not having the depth is Postecoglou cannot play the style that he is accustomed to playing. And since he doesn't really adapt, you're not going to get much. You are not going to get much at all. So, do I read much into this game? No, because honestly, I wasn't expecting much, especially in Europe. You got to win your home games and don't lose your away games. We did not lose our away game today. So I see it as a kind of win, I guess, even though this team was quite dreadful most of this game. Eke out a victory in some fashion. It is what it is. I mean, a draw is a draw. Tottenham, I believe, sit 9th still in the table for the Europa League, 1 spot outside of those, auto qualifiers. And Rangers sit in 8th. And their level right now, I think the differential is points, obviously, but Tottenham still have everything to play for. Let's get into the player ratings. There's something. We'll start at the top. Timo Werner, I already kind of got into it. This man, he doesn't know how to play football, especially in pressure-packed situations. He is awful. He earns a 5.5 in this match. That's truly, I think, the highest I could have gone because, that was a dreadful performance from Pedro Porro in this one, or from Timo Werner. We'll get to Pedro Porro in a minute, but for Timo Werner, that was just absolutely dreadful. Rightfully, Postecoglou subbed him off at half. I mean, that's something feel like I've never seen under Postecoglou making a sub at half, but here we are, and it happened. It did indeed happen. Heung-min's son, 6'5", he doesn't play good up the middle. yet because Richarlison can never stay healthy and Solanke does deserve some rest. We have to force him up the middle. Yes, this probably would have been a good game to play Lancashire, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Richarlison should have been sold in the summer. I mean, he's played, I think, one game this year. At least that's what it feels like because he's been injured ever since. It's just so hard to play like at the top levels when you can't stay healthy and you don't have the depth to replace them. Now, no, Will Lancashire is not Dominic Solanke. Not at all, because they're two different players. And Lancashire still has a lot to learn. But like, you do have to get them experience at some point. Obviously, he's had some playtime in the Europa League. He'll probably get some more later on. But, I mean, Son and Lancashire, I believe, have the same amount of goals in the Europa League this year. Like, I mean, what do we... Like, Son should not be playing up front. He can't play up front. It's a disaster when he plays up there. And we're just running him... Like I said earlier, we're running him into the ground, and I think that has to do, obviously, with some of the performance he's been putting out this year. Because he's being run into the ground. Brendan Johnson definitely was not the best of games from him. He earns a 6-1. Like I said, it just wasn't the best of games for a lot of players on this team. Brendan Johnson was one of those higher up there where it just was not his day. You had an interesting midfield today. You had Bissouma, Madison, and Bentancur. Bentancur was somewhat playing at the back, but at some points you had Bissouma and Bentancur playing at the back, and you had Madison as more of a attacking midfielder in that sense. But they were playing a messy triangle. That's truly what this was today. Bissouma 6'8". I don't know why he got the start today, truly. That stunned me. I figured Bentancur would have Bissouma. I was shocked that he got the start. And, I mean, it kind of proved me right. 6'8", he did not have a good day today. I still am questioning why he started today. James Madison, 7'3", Rodrigo Bentancur, 7'2". I mean, they're all kind of getting thrown in the same numbers here. It's just a mess. It's a mess right now. This whole team is a mess. And, like, nothing feels correct about this team right now. Where players play, how players are playing, just nothing feels correct. Destiny Udogie, 6'7", like I said, feels like he's never had rest this season, and he's also being run into the ground, and he's just been on a dreadful run of form, it feels. So he earns a 6'7". Radu Dragshin, 6'6". I mean, it was an okay performance, but still, like, there are still major problems with his play style. And, I mean, that's a big problem for Tottenham. He is your one center back that is, A, healthy right now, and B, he's your one replacement center back. Like, the fact we don't have anybody else is just absolutely insane. And the fact that Archie Gray is playing in the center back position, playing on that back line, and he's the highest scoring of that back line today at a 7-0. Oh, boy. I mean, it does give me hope that he's going to be a good player, but, like, I'd love to see him play in the midfield, which is his actual position. I'm tired of seeing him just forced in on the back because we don't have depth anywhere around there. So it is what it is. I thought he was the best player on this back line today, 7-0. Pedro Porro, I mentioned him by mistake earlier, but boy, oh boy, just dreadful performance today from him. Like, I don't even want to see him on the pitch on Sunday. That's how bad it was. I would rather just see Jed Spence, see what we have. Like, he's barely played since he got signed here. I'd like to see at least what it looks like. That's all I'm asking. Pedro Porro has been in a terrible run of form, and I'd love to see a little bit of a shake-up there. Fraser Forster, that is your man of the match. 8-1, like I said, he's keeping Tottenham in matches, which is just absolutely insane to say given how much I doubted that he would when he had to get called up into the starting position when Vicario went down injured. We look at the subs. Kulusevski came on at half for Timo. He is the goal scorer of the day. He earns a 7.6. I thought he had a very good performance off the bench. And it very much proves that this Tottenham team is nowhere without him. Like, they need him desperately, which also very much a problem. But, I mean, he's a playmaker. He's a playmaker, and that's all we can ask for right now because a lot of people are not being playmakers right now. Then we had a triple sub. I believe it was the 68th minute, 69th, somewhere around there. But it was Popsar, Lucas Bergvall, and Dominic Solanke. Solanke has the assist on the Kulusevski goal. He earns a 7-0. Bergvall, he was probably one of the better players we had in the midfield today, and he only played like 20 minutes. I'd like to see him play more. I'm just interested to see what we spent so much money on, like with with Gray and Bergvall. Obviously, we spent money on Sarr. We kind of know what we have there, but Bergvall and Gray just like they haven't got play time, so we don't know what we have. I'd like to see him play more. I thought today was a good performance from him. He earns a 7-1, and then Popsar a 6-4. I thought, he was okay in the midfield. Just he didn't really have many moments today. That's truly all it was. So, given that, like I said, Tottenham, I believe, still sit 9th in the Europa League table, which is definitely not out of the picture of anything yet. I believe they 2 games remaining. They travel to Hoffenheim in January and then Elfsborg at home. Those are 2 winnable games, and that could easily see you through to officially advancing to the knockout stages in the Europa League. Obviously, we got a long way to go till we get there, but for that, the Europa League is done for the calendar year 2024. We will once again return to it in 2025 with those final 2 match day games. For Tottenham next, it is Southampton away. Of course, the worst team in the Premier League right now, which probably means Tottenham will find a way to lose. But we got to wait until, I believe it's Sunday, and it's a very odd kickoff time. I believe it's like a 7 p.m. kickoff on Sunday in England, of course. I believe here in America it's a 2 p.m. kickoff or something stupid like that. Sure, why not? We'll be back here on Sunday night to recap that match against Southampton. And then on Thursday, I think this is the make or break game of the Ange Postecoglou era versus Man United at home Carabao Cup quarterfinals. That I feel like that's make or break. Like, we have to win that game. Have to. I don't care the injuries. We have to find a way to win that game. We will, of course, be here to recap that too. But for now, we are going to wrap it up for this episode of Top of the Perch. So thank you so much for watching. If you just stumbled across this video, click like, click subscribe, tell anybody you know about it. We'll be back here on Sunday night to recap that Southampton match on the South Coast on another episode of Top of the Perch.